My stepfather is a pedophile. He pulled out his gun and showed me that he had a gun and that I couldn't go anywhere. From the minute that I got into a relationship with her, almost every opportunity that I received, I lost. And I ended up pregnant.
You can press a button to rid the world of all evil. Do you press the button?
Absolutely not. You look at women the same way I look at women.
Do you have the belief that punishment can be an act of love?
Yes. In Jamaica, they beat the kids. Some people just don't listen. I'm one of them. I made it home 15 minutes late. My mom changed those locks and I was kicked out of that house.
Dark side.
Sometimes people do have to touch the stove to know it's hot. My name is Bueli Njheri, and this is my villain origin story.
So, according to your subject research dossier, it says your name is Bueli Njheri.
Yes.
Is that correct?
It is correct.
All right. It says you're from Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Yes.
And you are of Jamaican heritage.
I am.
It says you are a singer, songwriter, illustrator, visual artist, a tattoo artist, an educator, an author, and a speaker. Is that all correct?
This is all correct.
That's a lot of titles that you have there.
It is.
Which is interesting. Okay, so you are here because you want to join Dark Side. Is that correct?
Yes, it is correct.
All right. Well, as a member of Dark Side, we are oftentimes forced to make many difficult decisions.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you a few questions just to get your sense of morality. There's no right or wrong answer, so answer truthfully.
Okay.
The first question is, you can press a button to rid the world of all evil. You can get rid of all cruelty, all killings, all versions of people being taken advantage of.
Yes.
Basically, Earth turns into a peaceful place overnight.
Okay.
However, if you press this button, humanity also loses all of its creativity. So no music, no painting, no dancing, no dreaming. Do you press the button?
Absolutely not.
And why not?
I would not press the button because I feel like creativity is part of what humanity needs in order to have a sense of peace and happiness and joy and expression and mental clarity, mental health. I think that if we were to get rid of creativity and not have any crime, not having crime would be great. Not having depression, things like that would be great. But I also don't feel like I could still enjoy a world that doesn't have creativity as well as not having crime. So I would prefer that we have crime plus creativity, personally.
Okay.
At least I have a way to cope with it. But without it, we're what are we? We're creators. I don't think we work without that.
So you would keep the world as it is?
Yes.
Understood. My second question is, you can push a button
Okay.
and bring back 3 people that you've lost.
Ooh.
However, 3 random people on Earth lose their lives in exchange. You don't know who they are. You don't know where they're from. You don't know the walk of life that they come from. Do you press the button?
Yes.
Why?
This is more selfish. The people that I've lost were great people. Simple as that. I think that they contributed quite incredible things to the world. And I'm willing to take the risk. There's 8 billion people on this planet. I can bring back one person who affects, or 3 people that affect millions of people from the selection that I would make. I would take that risk. I would take that risk 100% because I still think the world would be better with them in it. So, yes, I would press that button. I know I probably should not press that button, but I'm not going to lie to you. I would press the button. Yeah.
Okay. One more question. The person who has caused you the most heartache, the most trauma, the most pain in this life is hanging off the edge of a cliff. You are the only person that can save them from falling to their demise. Do you save them?
Is there a catch? Is there a catch to anything?
There's no catch.
Do I just, I have the choice to just let them die or live?
Yes.
I would save them.
Okay.
I would.
You don't sound extremely sure or excited about that.
I would. I know who I am. I know that if that were to be something that I saw, in front of me, I would jump to save them for sure. Yeah, I would save them.
And nothing that they have put you through or that you have suffered from would alter your decision in choosing to save them. Do you think that that would be a part of your thought process when you go into making that decision?
No, I don't think it would be part of my thought process. I think because it's not even a question of, I don't think I would think in that moment about all the things. I would think that this is a person I cared about. Mm-hmm. They're in danger. Save them. That's literally what I would think. Probably after I pull them up, don't ever talk to me again. This never happened. Literally, no. That I wouldn't want to continue anything, but I know for a fact that if I saw them in danger in that time, life and death, I would save their life. Maybe if they were getting robbed, I might smile, I might laugh, but off a cliff, life and death, I would save them 100%.
Okay, this is an interesting start to your profile for sure. All right, so take me back to your early life, and because typically what happens is a lot of these decisions that you make in these types of situations are shaped by who you were early on. So I have here that you were raised in South Florida.
Yes.
With Jamaican family roots and periods in Jamaica.
Yes.
Stints of living in Jamaica.
Yes.
Public accounts describe a family of pastors and missionaries and a strict religious environment.
Yes.
So take me back to your early life, your family dynamics, who you were as a child.
Yes. Okay.
The floor is yours.
All right. So early childhood, born in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. My mother is a single mom. She was not a citizen at the time of my birth, so she was treading very carefully when being in America. She already had a daughter before me, my big sister Maya. She's about 4 years older than myself, and she was in Jamaica at the time that I was born and had to stay there due to, just like circumstances. My mom is trying to, get a household that's large enough and appropriate enough to have both of her daughters together and things like that. So at the time that I was born in Florida, my sister was living in Jamaica with our great grandmother. And then my mom was not in ministry at the time. But my grandmother was in ministry and in a relationship with an RD pastor. And my grandmother kind of converted the family into Christianity officially and things like that. And then, she had more children, my grandmother as well. And so those children, like my uncle, decided to go into ministry and become a pastor. And so with that being said, my grandfather is a pastor, or step grandfather is a pastor. My uncle became a pastor. I have aunties that are bishops, things like that. So I was raised in the church, building churches, mission trips, the whole shebang, not morning devotion, all the things, church on a Wednesday, church on Friday, church on Sunday, things like that.
Were you in the choir?
I was in the choir. Mm-hmm. I was in the choir. I was praise dancing. I loved to be in the media team. So I used to be in the back with like all the cameras and things like that too. Yes. And when I was in Jamaica, it was that times 10 as far as ministry. So the church was the main thing. And I hated it. I hated it. I compared Jamaica to America. As a child, I didn't have a sense of culture and gratitude for culture. I had a sense of convenience. And so it would be some stuff as simple as in America, I have TV and AC. In Jamaica, I don't. In America, I have, you know, all my friends. In Jamaica, I don't. In, supermarkets, Jamaica, I don't. So it's just like, it was a very, it was two different worlds. And how that worked was I went to school, and then in the summers, I would take the entire summer, and my mom would have me with my sister and everyone in Jamaica as well. And I would live back and forth like that. My grandmother is a creative. My grandmother is a seamstress. She is an incredible seamstress. I mean, she specialized in weddings particularly, and she was very fast, and she could make literally anything you put in front of her. She could make it like 100%. Her sense of design and understanding and craftsmanship and quality and all of that was something that was instilled in me from a very young age, amongst all the strictness of the ministry. Whatever we did creatively, she wanted us to do it to uplift and speak about God, be a vessel for the gospel in a sense. So she did encourage me to be creative. My grandma would take like magazines and put a bunch of magazines on the floor in front of me, and have like dolls, and would have me cut out the magazine shirts and stuff and paste them together and make different outfits and things. And my grandma she would really encourage that. My family, even though they were creative people, they are very religious people, and they kind of stick to how they feel biblically a Christian should behave, and they implemented that very harshly. And so when it came to like children and women, we are people that should be seen and not heard. And because of that, there were many times amongst my family where I did not feel like I could express myself vocally or verbally, apart from being in school choirs or plays or church choirs and plays or praise dancing, things like that. And so amongst like regular daily life, I ended up expressing more so through my hands. So I would do things like journal. I would journal every single day. Anytime that I felt like I needed to recollect what was happening throughout the day, my interpretation of things, my expression of things, I would write them all down in extreme detail. And then that also went into me documenting where I am at all times as well. So if we went to the supermarket, I would be in the shopping cart drawing what was happening around me. And my grandmother would collect all of those images, and we can see those pieces improve over time. I ended up becoming a visual artist. I had a real specialty for hyperrealism specifically, and in the medium of acrylic and oil pastel. And then that eventually moved on to oil paints, and it moved on to digital work over the years, things like that. Then it moved sculpturally. And yes, I ended up becoming a illustrator, and it officially became a thing in high school once I decided to start submitting my artwork to events to sell my work. And then I ended up booking freelance gigs at a young age. And that kind of ushered me into getting an illustration degree, which ushered me into becoming an illustrator, which ushered me into becoming a tattoo artist. When I got bored with the medium of, digital work, now I have a bunch of skills when it comes to visual art.
That's good information, but let's still stick to early life.
Yeah.
Because I think the aspect of you coming from a family like that. I'm Nigerian.
Yes.
So I relate a lot to what it looks like to be from an immigrant family. And it's understandable because of the sacrifices that they have made for us to be able to live the lives that we have lived in a place like the US, contrary to what it was like for you, for example, living in Jamaica and seeing that contrast.
Yes.
I understand how, because they have made those sacrifices also come with a level of expectation for how we should live our lives, or the things that we should achieve with all of this real and perceived opportunity in a country such as this, right? So I can relate a lot as to when you maybe have certain dreams or passions that you want to pursue, not necessarily how it isn't supported, but how it isn't supported by your family based on their predisposition and the information that they have. Was there any part of your childhood, identity-wise, that your family did not approve of?
Yes.
And if so, were there any measures that were taken, I guess, to try and change who you were?
Absolutely. The most obvious one, is my sexuality. So again, people may know this, but my family is not only Christian, but they are Pentecostal, right? They are apostolic people. They are holy rollers. They do not play around with homosexuality at all. That's like one of the most, it's an abomination in their eyes. And I did not ever have an attraction for men, generally speaking. My mom was a single mom. My family is a matriarch, and always has been, from my great grandmother to my grandmother and now to my mother. And in every single sect of my family, to every section, is also a matriarchy there. So the value that we have on women, the appreciation of and the beauty that we have towards the women in our family is very strong. I also was, my mom, I said before, was a single mom. So I didn't really have a male figure. I don't know necessarily if that contributes to why I have a preference for women, but it was there. Even though I knew my family was not supportive of it, something in me specifically values family so much and values communication so much, especially with my mother. I had such an obsession with having a deep relationship with my mom that I would express very freely, and no matter how many times I got corrected, I would still do so. So I always knew that I was queer. One time it was like Facebook was around. I was not old enough for MySpace, but by the time I got old enough for MySpace, Facebook was a thing. So I never really got to have a MySpace phase. Made an account on Facebook. My stepfather at the time, he was new in my life. He went to me and he was like, he pulled me to the side one day and was just like, you look at women the same way I look at women. And he basically told me, if you are gay, just know that I love you and appreciate you, and I'm not going anywhere, and you don't have to worry about like your safety or anything like that. Him speaking to me at this time, I'm thinking he's speaking as a unit. Like, why would he say this as an individual? I'm thinking he's saying this like
on behalf of the whole family.
On behalf of the whole family. So I go on little Facebook and I'm just like, that moment when your family realizes you are queer and they accept you anyway. That was like literally what I put. Now, again, I'm a kid. I shouldn't be on Facebook. I'm not friends with anybody from the church, any of my family members. The only person that I am friends with on Facebook is my sister, Maya. And Maya wouldn't rat me out like that. But also, I didn't realize that my page was public. Again, I'm new to Facebook. So my sister comments underneath the post and she's like, what are you talking about? And I was like, we need to talk. I guess that response must have went on her page everyone, I mean, everyone, everybody saw this post. Everybody saw this post. The pastor's kid is gay. Like, the pastor's grandkids is gay. Like, the person that's on the stage is gay. Like, you get what I mean? And so my mom's phone was literally ringing. When I tell you ringing nonstop, like if you've ever had like a viral post or something and your phone is like ding, 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 my mom's phone was going off. And for a moment, I did not understand why. They started calling her. Everyone is, calling her about what they just found out. People from Jamaica, people from Canada, people from Korea, people from like my whole family everywhere was calling my mom. Bahamas, everywhere. And it was really embarrassing for my mom. She didn't talk to me for 2 months. And my grandmother decided that my grandmother is a prayer warrior. She does not play. She will do whatever she needs to do to make sure that the salvation of her children is ensured. And so I ended up getting sent to church camp. I ended up getting sent to South Carolina.
Sent to church camp
for
being queer.
Yes. They did every week my grandma would come and she would pray over me, and she would, honestly, it was quite disturbing. She would pray over me that like any gay person that touches me would die. It was just a very intense, intentional, we need this to leave you now. This is a problem. And yeah, that was like the one of the strongest measures, but I nothing changed. So what I did was I decided like I need to just come out to my family. Mm-hmm. You don't need to hear it from online or speculate from anyone else. I had my stepdad and my mom sign contracts. I like wrote out a contract like, you will not speak to argue. You will speak to hear me out. You will not say anything until I'm done. Or you can ask questions, but they have to be respectful. All these things. I wrote out everything, printed it out, duplicated it for both my parents. I believe it was January something of 2013. January 14th of 2013 or something. They signed that contract. We went into the living room and I told everyone I was gay. I basically said that the odds of me marrying a woman is 2 times, 3 times likely than me marrying a man. And my mom completely did not understand. She was just like, how do you know that? What have you done? And I was like, what have you done to know that you like guys? And she was just like, oh.
I have 2 questions.
Yeah.
The first one, because I want to go back to the church camp thing, because I think that's very interesting.
Yes.
But the contract that you had your parents, your mom and your stepdad sign.
Yes.
Where does that come from? Like, where does that, because that's different, right? Yes, like most kids are not thinking, most kids might not have the emotional intelligence or even the awareness to think that I can write down the things that I want and articulate it in a way that I can present it to an adult and get the adult to make a promise or make a pact that this is how they're going to conduct themselves. Especially as children, we're so used to, like you said, being talked down to, being told what to do. So where does that, I don't know what to call it, but that like spunk, that energy, that awareness come from that made you feel confident enough to be able to say, hey, here's, how I want to be treated?
Honestly, I think it was a creative act of desperation. I think I tried everything else. I think that I tried to have conversations casually. I tried to have conversations intentionally. I tried to, have conversations that I thought were sensible and explain my place. And they were always met with, scripture, but nothing was changing. And I felt like in order for people to actually understand me, I needed to have a platform. And like I said, children should be seen and not heard. So there were not many chances that I got as a child to ever explain myself. When I did things wrong, if I try to explain, it was what they said was the truth, even if I knew that that was a lie. Whatever their perception was the truth. And so I felt like I was always desperate to just get the floor to explain everything. Even now, I word vomit a lot because I don't know the next chance I'm gonna get, get a chance to say something. So I'll say this. I think there's two sources. There is a man in my life from when I was a child. He is a fantastic friend of my mom. His name is G. Businessman, straight businessman. His relationship with me, the way we bonded was he would take me on his errands, basically. When he's going to the car dealership, when he's, you know, going to do a meeting with somebody, when anything, he would bring me along, and he basically taught me how to network. Like, this was a very intentional, like, Bueli, I'm going to take you and teach you how to make connections, your how to be a useful person, and would bring me around all these people. So it was always establishments where, like, he would have to, like, draw up a contract or do something with somebody. So I did see a lot of that with him, as well as my mother. She, again, an immigrant, she made a promise, like, she prayed one time to God, like, if she ever got a good job, she would do whatever she can to not lose that job. And that job was, her current job. And she got it and started moving up. And I started seeing how she writes emails. The way that she speaks at home versus the way that she speaks at work was two completely different things. And I always noticed that anytime I got into any trouble in school, any time I needed to talk to a teacher or specify something, I would always run to my mom and ask my mom to write down the way that it is, write down what I'm trying to communicate. And her language, her jargon, they never played with her. So I started to have a real value in communicating, like, through literature, through contracts, through journaling, through books, things like that. And so I feel like because of those two people, my mother being a businesswoman and that sort of father figure also being a businessman, I learned how to do that. Yeah.
I have a question because I know that you related your queerness to coming from a matriarchal family and not necessarily having male role models or people that you looked up to that could kind of create the dynamic for you to even figure out that you like men but you did say that you had a stepfather and you had a role model in G, I believe you said his name is, that gave you some of this, information, I guess, and confidence to be able to conduct yourself the way that you did back then, and I'm sure the way that you do now. So I'm curious, dive a little bit into generally how your relationship was with them, but more so, how was your relationship generally with men overall that did come into your life? If you had a stepdad, then that means that your mom was in a relationship with someone who was not your biological father. What, if you can't, it's okay. But what was your mother's relationship with men like this? What were the things that you were seeing? Mm-hmm. How did it affect you, positively or negatively?
So my mother didn't necessarily have, she interacted with men, of course, right? Naturally. But as far as relationships and dynamics in the house, they were not positive. So my stepfather was extremely abusive, like extremely, extremely abusive. Probably the worst thing I've caught him doing, the worst things. You get what I'm saying? And to my mother. And my mom, she's such a protector, and she's such a person that she would put her life on the line if it means that it will protect or secure her children. I think she stuck around for things way longer than she should have. And it taught me to have more tolerance for things that I shouldn't have. It didn't give me necessarily a good foundation for dealing with people of authority, male figures who in a Christian household should be the leaders. So that's why I say authority. Yes, and I've had two stepfathers. So I've had two stepfathers, and even my first stepfather, who I'm still in contact with, he was wonderful. He was not an abusive person, but the second one, who stayed for the longest point in my life, was a very abusive person. So yes, it didn't leave a good taste in my mouth when it came to men. Men coming in my house equaled danger. It equaled some form of discomfort. It equals some form of me having to, again, we were so strict. So even like, once the stepfather is now in the house, I can't just wear a t-shirt or a dress or whatnot. I would be beaten for doing things that was normal when the women were in the house, and I was not given the reasons why or explained. So in my mind as a child, I'm not putting it together that men should be treated in a particular way. I'm just associating men is here, things bad are happening. So it's thwarting me away from men in general. Now, that is men, adults, right? When it came to children, I didn't really have a concept of gender when it came to children. So like all my cousins, lots of male cousins, lots of female cousins. I definitely was around the women more, but as a child, it was pretty, I have a lot of male cousins, and they came around, and they lived with me for some time, for a long time. And to me, it was like my cousin was like my sister. Like, my cousin was like one of us. There was no, we're bathing together. Yeah. We're sleeping together. Yeah. Everything is the same. We eat, we breathe, we play. Everything is the same.
Yes.
So I didn't really have when it comes to children, that concept with men.
That dynamic, when it came to other men being in the household and how it affected the way that you had to show up in your house, did that ever cause any type of rift or issue between you and your mother?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So this is, I've never spoken about this. So this is a bit vulnerable, but I'm happy to do it here. The rift that was caused between me and my mom was one that was caused because of my stepfather. So my stepfather is a pedophile. So he had an attraction towards me that I did not understand, an attraction towards me and my sister that I did not understand. But because of this attraction, he saved me a lot from my mom's excessive disciplinary action. So in Jamaica, they beat the kids, like, spare the rod, spoil the child. You get what I mean? That was pretty excessive as an early child. Once my stepfather was in the house, he would stop her from doing those things. So because of that, I'm like 8, 9, 10, starting from that age, this is happening. And I'm not understanding that this person is coming on to me in an inappropriate way. If I come to my mom with this information, the disciplinary action is going to continue. So if I tell her, it's gonna cause more pain for me. So instead of telling my mom, I would spend a lot of time trying to convince my stepdad that my mom is who he should be doing all these things with, if that makes sense. Now, my mom has always had suspicions, and she would always ask me if anything is happening, would I tell her? And I'd always tell her yes. And I thought that if something happened, tell her, but nothing ever happened. It was always like speaking of or asking to. And so I didn't realize that what she was asking me was to tell her.
And how old were you at this time?
I would say like this was she was in a relationship with him for like 10 years. So I would say from like 8 to 18. This is a long time. Till college. So maybe 8 to 17 was 8 to about 18 years old was how long this went. But again, I had a plan to tell her. So again, journal. I journaled every incident. I journaled everything. And I eventually shared those journals with her and told her everything. That caused a rift. My mom, she didn't understand what was happening. She just speculated that something was happening. I guess she can see how he's looking at me or things like that.
Yeah.
So a lot of that drove us apart. His special treatment drove us apart. The dynamics, the abuse, me not wanting him to be there, but him being a protector, that was creating a rift. I hated the fact she had him in the house, but he's here, he's contributing. I'm sure now that I'm older, I'm sure like his contribution financially to whatever it may be. It was a hard time, but we took a lot of time after that my mom and my relationship is fantastic now.
When you went to this church camp, what were some of the things that you experienced at this church camp? What were the things that they tried to do to, change your sexuality, things of that nature?
Well, the church camp that I went to is called ACI. It stands for Apostolic Camp International. It was done in South Carolina, I believe. They held a lot of classes, courses, and most of those classes they rented. I'm not sure if they rented, if they were given, but it was done on a college campus. So me, as well as many kids my age, would be in dorms, like roommating together. And then we have dorm mates as well as a particular RA of our gender and specializes in our age and things like that. So during daytimes, we would do devotion. Night times after the classes, we would come together and like talk, pray, things. In those classes, they had a lot of it would be like Sunday school in those classes, but much more intense. It always ended up in very rigorous prayer, very intense, when I tell you praying till you're sweating, praying and crying and pushing on the stomach and trying to get it out and want you to, what they were trying to do was get all of the kids to get the Holy Ghost so that they can get baptized and get salvation. They felt like this was the ultimate way to heal any and everyone. That's their solution for everything. And then we had situations of mental health, which is also, I cannot tell you whether it is mental health or whether it was actual demonic activity, but we had many cases there of children being perceived to have been possessed with demons or spiritual entities or deities and such. And granted, those kids were acting as such. We had people growling and crawling on the floors and stuff like that. They called exorcists over the white Catholic type men that would come and speak Latin and have the incense and say what they need to say. And they would pull me to the side for whatever reason. And they would say the words to me or try to isolate me and get a reaction out of me, I guess. A spirit, if you were possessed, would react to these sayings. And I wasn't reacting to nothing. So they eventually just had to leave me alone.
Yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't just me. I have a friend, man, I want to say everyone's name, but I don't know if I can
You
because this
don't
is
have
their
to.
story
Yeah,
too.
exactly. We'll get
But
them on
yeah,
here one day.
yes. But that's what would happen. So it was like exorcism classes. We had there were games and stuff they tried to do, challenges there, and then of course at the end of every day there was a big service with everyone, all the adults, all the children, all the stuff, and it always ends in mass prayer and again very intense, and again trying to get everyone to get the Holy Ghost, get baptized, and reach salvation.
So, I mean, it's pretty insane to think about how you are essentially trapped in a place where exorcisms are going on.
Yeah.
And your reasoning for being there is your queerness. And
Yes.
essentially your queerness is being put in the same box as someone who is possessed by demons and things of that nature. So literally they're trying to pray the gay away. Is
I will say that once my sister found out that there's people actually possessed, like my sister was like, you gotta get away from them, things like that. And I think that kind of transferred over to my mom. I think they realized, because when it came to my mom stepped back when she found out that I was gay. She pulled away from me. So it felt like it wasn't really my mom's decision, more so like the pastors and my grandma and things like that really pushed it, and my mom was just handle it, cuz she was embarrassed, and at the time I was like, I don't care, I'm your child, you should whatever. But now that I'm older, I'm like, she's a person. People have flaws, things.
That's one thing I've noticed with my family too. It's like you always wonder why sometimes your parents are so they have such a strong grasp or hold over church life and church community, but then you realize that that is one of the only places where they can actually find community, and there is a big social life and social network in a Christian or just overall religious presence in a community, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's something that as you get older, you start to realize it's more than just devotion. A lot of the time it has a lot to do with social proof.
Yes.
So
I definitely messed up her status.
For sure. You messed up her status. You know what I'm saying? You should have kept that to yourself till you were older or whatever.
Absolutely.
But yeah, you got sent to church camp. So my question is, and then we'll continue along the story, but how did, if anything, how did that affect your relationship with religion and spirituality? Do you feel like it made you believe more in it? Did it feel like it made you believe less in it? Did it make you want to get closer, further away? What would you say to that?
I love this question. I think that for me, I had this one conversation with this one girl that changed everything. I was leaning more into stepping away from the church. And it wasn't just because I wanted to hold on to my sexuality so hard. That was okay. I valued family over everything. And I also wasn't in a relationship with anybody. So it wasn't like I had something to defend. You know what I mean? So it didn't necessarily pull me away from church. It didn't necessarily pull me away from God. I was a gifted child. I have the ability to see spirits, hear spirits, things like that. I when it comes to the paranormal world, I'm very comfortable in that space. So I had no doubt in God. I had no doubt in spirits, deities, anything like that. So it didn't pull me away from a relationship with God or Christ. It pulled me away from my family, specifically because I understood that my family, their importance on the social dynamics of the outside world was way too strong for what I felt was important, which was the social dynamics within the family. So I felt like time after time again, these people, my family, would put their lives on the line, risks their money, risk their risk everything, their housing, whatnot, to upkeep this
social status
for people that would not bat an eye if they were in trouble. And that pained me all the time, seeing my family do this and sacrifice like relationships with their children for it. And I was the type to just not stand for that. So I felt like in whatever way I was going to get out of this family and I was going to make a family of my own, and whatever my family is on my own, I will teach what I feel like is foundational importance.
Mm-hmm.
And that did not work for me. And the reason why is because I love my family so much. So it just became one of those things where it was like, they think they're doing the best for me. It became more of like I had to change the way I think about it. Them sending me to church camp is not an act of hatred. It is an act of love. They're doing this because they think that this is going to save my life, save my soul. So once I had this understanding, it was much easier to tolerate my family. I still definitely had to separate myself in a sense, like distance wise. So I like moved out the state so I can still act freely. While still maintaining the relationships and where I wanted. But I brought up this woman that I spoke to that changed everything for me, because she was a woman my age. She was around like 15, like me. And I'm talking to her and I'm telling her about all my quarrels with the church and why I don't like going here and why I'm going to separate myself and all this stuff. And she was just telling me, she said something, it was so simple. She was like, why would your relationship with people affect your relationship with God? And she was like, that the things that you do with them have nothing to do with here. So like, continue to go to the church. You can put your focus in other things. You know what I'm saying? The church and the lessons that are happening from the preacher are not the same people that are demonizing you and all this things. So separate those two. Mm-hmm. It's like you go to school. You're not going to go to school just because you have a bully. You have a bully. The bully is the problem. Mm-hmm. You're not going to stop yourself from learning the maths and the sciences and all the things that you need just because there's a bully. You might have to change the church. You might have to whatever, but you still need whatnot. When she broke it down like this, I'm like, this girl's my age. How does she?
Yeah, that's powerful, because I think that is a ongoing conversation that happens. For the sake of this conversation, I'll say I'm on neither end of the spectrum.
Right.
But there are a lot of people, we'll just use Christianity because that's the realm that we're in right now.
Right.
There are a lot of people who hate Christianity, or a lot of people who maybe they used to be Christians and they ran away from it. And the reason why is because they feel as though Christianity or the Bible or the Word of God has been perverted by man, whether it be the translation of Holy Scriptures or whether it be bringing cultural norms or cultural expectations into a Christian space and using Christianity to enforce cultural expectations, or whether it just be hiding behind the veil of Christianity or the veil of holiness and using it to essentially do evil. There's a lot of people that have watched pastors, deacons, bishops, their parents, anyone that says I'm a child of God, I go to church, I'm in the choir, I'm in the media team, whatever it may be, do horrible things behind the scenes. And that can be a reason why they can want to avoid spirituality or avoid religion altogether, obviously, because we know that religion and spirituality are two completely different things.
Yes.
So I definitely understand that point. And I think that's there's a lot that I resonate with in terms of how it shifted your dynamic. It didn't stop you from appreciating what your family's religion had to offer. You just had to compartmentalize what was human and what was holy, essentially.
Yes.
So I think that's a great answer. There was something interesting that you said before too, which is that when your parents sent you to the church camp, that was an act of love. So do you have the belief that punishment can be an act of love?
Yes. My God. Especially now, I sometimes feel that the best thing that we can do for somebody is allow the consequences to happen. Sometimes I think that when we intercede, we're stopping lessons, we're stopping growth, we're stopping a potential evolution that can be beneficial to somebody. Sometimes people do have to touch the stove to know it's hot. As much as we'd like to save them from the burn, some people just don't listen. I'm one of them.
Sometimes you got to grab their hand and just put it on there.
Yes.
You know what? I'm going to save you the trouble of,
Yes.
curiosity, and I'll just show you exactly
Just
what
show
it is.
you exactly what it is. Sometimes we have to step out of people's way. I find myself, again, staying in relationships longer than what I should have because I'm over here trying to shield them from a potential experience or something that they may need. I'm thinking of something very particular.
Yeah, for sure.
But also, by me pausing, I could harm my own growth, especially if I'm in the vicinity of these people.
Yes.
I need the people around me to grow as well. And if they're not, it stunts my growth. If I don't allow them to feel it, it'll eventually come back to myself. So I 100%, like, especially now, I have so many conversations where I'm like, I'm so sick of people not getting the consequences because I think the consequences are really important. And I pray it doesn't come back to me so hard the way I'm preaching for it.
Yeah.
But man, it's so necessary because I've just seen too many people go about things in ways that are not healthy because they've never gotten to actually see the aftermath of what their actions are doing, because there's so many people trying to protect them from the aftermath.
For sure.
So yes, may I say something?
Absolutely.
I apologize. One, I just want to go back and say that everything that you said about religion earlier and why people may step away from religion or go towards religion, I agree with you 110%. I am answering in the scope of, like you said, Christianity and where my family lies in it. And I tried to have some sort of understanding and maybe think from their perspective. That's really hard to do. So like for people that I'm not the only person that's going through this, right? So for the people that have gone through it the way I have, you do not have to go through it the way that I did. You do not have to forgive them the way that I did. That is what works for me. But what may work for you is stepping away from the church. I remember when I think Kirk Franklin dropped an album called Losing My Religion. And the whole church was like on fire about it. But it was like, that's the thing. It's sometimes people need to let go of the social thing so that they can actually have like an interpersonal relationship.
For sure. Something
for themselves, something deep for themselves, something authentic. And sometimes the social construct or the institution of something can get in the way. And it definitely has caused my family to take action that has harmed me. Take action that I still don't agree with. All the things that you've listed earlier, 110%.
Yeah, I'm a big anime fan, and that I always refer to as leaving the village. So, for example, in Naruto, Sasuke had to leave the village. You know what I mean? To go on his own. Why are you laughing?
Because I'm so like, ugh, Sasuke.
Oh, you don't like the Sasuke character?
I don't like. He did what he had to do.
Okay.
I definitely think Sasuke did what he had to do. Yes. He had some healing he needed to do, especially family. Same thing. Dang. Am I Sasuke?
Because look, I mean, he had vengeance in his heart,
yes,
right? And
yes.
he wanted to leave the village so that he could seek power greater than what the village had to offer.
Absolutely.
Because he felt that his mission was bigger than anything that the village was striving towards,
Absolutely.
If that made sense. And so, I mean, to be honest, even though Sasuke, and for those of you that haven't watched this, just bear with us, but even though he left the village for his specific reasons, he crossed off the sigil on the headband and went about his duty. Even Naruto and Sasuke had to leave. Naruto and Sakura had to leave the village as well.
Yes.
They went on their own journeys for 3 years to go out there and become stronger. Yes. And then they came back with a renewed perspective.
Yes.
And, basically they were able to make their decisions from there, whether or not they felt like what the village was standing for or what it had to offer was still aligned with the path that they were on.
Yes.
And so I think that everybody at some point, I mean, statistically speaking, you choose a religion based on geographical positioning.
Yes,
so
yeah.
if you grow up in a majority Christian country,
Yeah.
the likelihood is that you will be Christian.
Absolutely.
Right? Which, same thing, if you grow up in a majority Muslim place, the likelihood is that you will practice Islam. But I think it's good for everybody, no matter what it is that you practice or you were raised on, for you to go and explore the world, go and see what other people are doing, get renewed perspectives, because that I think will add more perspective to the thing that you were raised on.
Yes.
And yeah, I mean, it's a flip of a coin. You might find more in the religion that you were raised on, or you might say, maybe actually that's not for me. I want to go do something else. Or maybe you try to do a little life of pi and combine, bits and pieces of everything. But I think that that's something that's like extremely powerful for everyone to do, especially because it gives you an additional sense of empathy. So maybe there are less wars that are happening over holy ground or over whose God is the real God, or, who will make it to heaven and who won't make it to heaven.
Right.
If we have a better understanding of each other's beliefs and why we believe those things.
Right.
But all that to say, I definitely think that any family would be happy to have someone like you, just because regardless of the things that they have done, regardless of whether it's out of love or out of spite or out of hatred, you have been forgiving and you have been willing to contextualize everything that has happened through you on their behalf and make sense of it, which a lot of people, I don't think, have reached that stage of healing.
Yes.
Right? I think mom was abusive, dad was abusive, and that follows them for the rest of their life. And they're never able to kind of put themselves in their shoes and say, okay, I know that this happened to me, but they did this because of this reason. And even though it's not okay, I'm able to understand why it happened. And that puts me in a better position to heal from it, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And I think that you've conquered that like pretty early on in life. Because you didn't just get here now, you've been here for a while.
Yes.
So that's important. Earlier, you talked about the distinction between male figures in your life as adults and how you didn't really see the difference when it came to your cousins or basically children. In our research document here, it says that you are family members with a well-known artist.
Yes.
Who used to go by the name of XXXTentacion, also known as Jahseh. Can you tell me a bit about what your relationship was like with him? How long have you known each other? Early life, things of that nature.
Yes. Okay. So Jahseh is my cousin. His mom is my aunt. We lived together from very early age. I can't even say, maybe from 6 years old, 7, maybe 5. We've been together since we were very young. My aunt, she had my mom be a caretaker sometimes, and it became more consistently over time to the point where he was just living with us. And he became like a brother at that time because we weren't raised like cousins. We were raised like siblings since we're in the same house and everything. We had the triple bunk bed. So it'd be me and Jahseh on the top and our big sister on the bottom. Jahseh was born January 23rd, 1998. And I'm born July 1st, 1998. So he's like my bigger cousin by just a little bit, but we're basically the same age. So me and him were always together. We went to the same school, everything, church, everything together. He was always into anime and video games, especially Kingdom Hearts was his favorite, like Sora, favorite.
We share that commonality.
Yes,
for sure.
you guys do.
Mm-hmm.
He loved Naruto, loved Avatar. We had a lot of consoles. His mom would bless us with every single Nintendo, whatever console, like he had from the very beginning of Nintendo to very end. He had every single Nintendo console, and I got to play every single one of them. Then it went from that to like PlayStation. So me and Jahseh played a lot of video games. We played like action figures and dolls. I watched Chucky, so then I became afraid of dolls. So then that moved to like water guns and all types of stuff. And then in high school, associated with the visual arts thing, I started to submit my artwork to events. My mom was very strict. We could not go anywhere unless I had some sort of an art show or something where I was showing my art. And once I understood that, I started to plot and plan, and I realized that the only way that I will be able to get any sort of freedom outside of the house is if I am constantly submitting my artwork to places. And the places that I was submitting my artwork to were not your traditional art galleries. They were events in like Wynwood that were like deep Miami, that were super grunge and alternative and creative and young and all the things. And I started submitting my artwork there. I was getting in. My artwork was good. I was selling a lot of artwork. Eventually, I got very tired of submitting my artwork and being approved by anyone else. So then I started to throw my own events and have other people submit towards me. Jahseh, passion for music, came out of nowhere. It felt like it came out of nowhere. He ended up developing a group of friends who would also dive into him with this music, and we decided to pair up. I would throw events, he would perform. Sometimes I would throw events and then he would perform at the competing events, and it was a very intense, super cool, creative thing. Then Jahseh decided that he wanted to start like a group, and he wanted it to be called The Nobodies. And it was the Nobody spelled with a Y. No, it was the Nobody spelled with an IES, but there was already a group in Miami called The Nobodies with a YS.
Nobodies is actually a Kingdom Hearts reference, by the way.
It is.
I don't know if anybody knows that. Maybe you didn't know that.
I did not know that.
But, yeah.
Dang.
So in the Kingdom Hearts, you have the Heartless, and then you have essentially their counterparts, which are the Nobodies. So the Heartless are like these dark...
Are the black
creatures.
Characters.
The Nobodies are like these white... So the Heartless are like dark and very like circular.
Are you serious?
The Nobodies are white and very like, triangular in their design. So
are you serious?
Yeah. So that's my first time hearing about that. But I can tell you, just based on the fact that he was a fan of Kingdom Hearts, that's definitely where that came from, which is really cool.
Dang. The reason why it's hitting me so hard right now is because when he pitched that idea to me, I shot it down so fast because there was already a group called the Nobodies. I was like, we can't be in Miami. There's already a group in Miami called this. They're already performing all the stuff like that. You're not going to stand out. In fact, people are going to get confused, all the stuff. But he was so into the name, it like made him mad at me for like 3 days. But yeah, that's incredible. That's crazy. Thank you for that. That's information. That's awesome. Anyway, the Nobodies eventually became members only. I was one of the first members. There was a girl named Sunshine or something. I can't remember. Her name was Sunny or something. She was another member, and there was another member. It was 3 girls at first. We would do all of the visuals. We would make all of the Twitter pages. We would make like 10 Twitter pages each. If he posted anything, we would duplicate and, retweet, put it all over the place. We would marketing team, but very organic, there was no like bots. There was none of that. Everything was super organic. It was pretty cool. Eventually that fell apart because we couldn't see eye to eye. He wasn't living up to his half of the deal, which was all of these artists were going to create the visual work for him. He would promote the art, which would get us booked at other events. We would promote the music, such and such. We'd all grow together in our individual things, but we are members only. The nobodies would not. We would be known in our thing. He wasn't holding up his side. He made my Twitter account. Me and the other artists were talking about that. He signed into my Twitter account, was like, "You talking shit? What the?" Like, no, this is over.
Twitter has gotten everybody in trouble at least once in their life.
He was so mad at me. Oh my gosh. But I wasn't like talking shit. We were just saying like, this is not fair because we're putting out a lot of work and we're doing a lot of stuff. But you know, he was very in his feelings. Anyways, we were doing events together, all the things. I continued even when we separated. We're still cousins. You can't get rid of each other. So of course we still are doing what we do. Now he did get arrested. The whole thing that happened with Drake stealing his song, all the stuff. I went to college. I didn't talk to him for a couple of months because I was like transitioning from college. I had no idea where Jahseh was. I get a phone call on my phone. I'm at this place called the Smoke Shack at my college. It's a designated smoking area. My friends were all smoking weed and all the stuff. I'm with them. I get a phone call. It's Jahseh. It's like a jail call. I've never gotten a jail call before in my life. So I'm listening to it. I accept the call. He just starts laughing on the phone. And I'm like, Jahseh, like, what's going on? Ends up updating me about everything that's happening with the Drake situation and all this stuff that's going on. And how it's going to propel him, and also spiritual advice. And
for people that don't know, what was the situation that happened with Drake?
The situation was that Drake had written a song that was in the same cadence and beat of Jahseh's song. And everyone's like, this sounds like this guy. This guy is in jail right now or whatever. And that like took him. Everyone was talking about it. And then, of course, all the girls find out that Jahseh is a pretty boy and all the things. And it just became a whole thing. And he was eating it up. He loved it. He was going to get out of there.
So he calls you from jail and he kind of knows that
it's going to blow up.
It's going to blow up.
He knows it's going to blow up. He's very sure.
Before, I mean, because obviously there's a little bit that happens before Drake even knows who he is and is inspired by his song or however you want to, word it. What was Jahseh doing to be known, right? Like, I know that he was performing, you were throwing events, he was performing at your events, but what was the in-between, from him essentially deciding he wanted to make music to like getting to that point?
He's a very polarizing person and he knows this, right? As much as he can, gather groups of people somewhat like yourself, where people just have a gravitational pull to want to follow you. Jahseh had the same thing, but also he very much understood what gathers people's attention, and he wasn't afraid to look like a villain doing it. He would do stuff like, he would literally go on Twitter and like bet he can fight any one of his fans and like win the fight. And people would literally try to fight a rapper that they're a fan of. And I think it's crazy. And he would win all the fights. And one thing about Jahseh, he was very small and dense. Very like, I don't know if I can compare it to like Jet Li. So like small and dense, very powerful, hard person. And in Florida, we were raised like fighting, slap boxing all the time. So it was kind of just like a natural thing to like know how to be able to fight, especially in Broward, Florida. So that was a thing. He would do that. There was a video he made with like a porn star to hype himself up. There was Snapchats where he was doing crazy things and would get a lot of, he just knew how to get clout. I don't know. Sure. But that's what he did in the in-between. And of course, then he would drop the music, of course, and all these girls, like the women, loved his music. The women loved his music, and they knew about his stuff before even I knew about his stuff. So it was like all of my friends, and he was kind of like a player. So like he would be like messing around with a lot of girls, and like all of my friends would come up to me and be like, I'm in love with this guy and he's da 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 da. It was always Jahseh. It happened to me like 4 times with all of my friends, and I'm like, how are they all doing this? I don't understand. But yeah, Jahseh had on every single level with the guys, very popular, very cool, very fashionable, very, we're kids, so we're into the smaller things. And then when it came to online, he was on that too. When it came to the music was good too. When it came to his looks, he was very much on that too. So like on every scope, he was hitting all the markers.
He knew how to like draw attention and get people to believe in him and want to follow him.
Absolutely.
That's amazing.
It's a great way to say
So
it.
how was your family dealing with, number one, having you?
Yeah.
Because up until now, we've just known you as basically the black sheep / outlier in your family. But there is another one, essentially, and you guys pretty much shared a bed when you were babies. Mm-hmm. What was that like for your family, having two polarizing personalities, essentially under one household, but then eventually a part of one family? And how, like, you've already explained what they did with you, but what were they like with him and the things that he was doing?
They were not as forgiving with him. They were very rough on him. I will say that Jahseh didn't necessarily make it easy. He got kicked out of every school. He got kicked out of school. He'll go to another school, get kicked out of that one, go to a reform school. What are those schools?
Alternative school.
Alternative school, get kicked out of alternative school. Like he was, from a young age, I'll say this. This is something to make it very clear. Jahseh loves his mom. Jahseh loves his mom. And like, there were moments where she couldn't be around as much as he would like her to. Again, he was living with us. Anytime he got in trouble, though, she came to, whether it be to scold him, spend time with him, whatever. Jahseh put it together very quickly that getting in trouble means seeing his mom. Jahseh got in trouble every day. Jahseh would get into fights every single day. He wants to see his mom. He wants to spend time with his mom. And that was very clear. That is a conversation I have had with Jahseh. He understands this. So I think eventually it developed into like, again, not having strong enough consequences to like actually get you to stop doing the things. But then also, same thing as me, our values to the family is not in the same place. So why would he stop doing certain things when he's not trying to live the life that you're trying to live? The differences with me is that I didn't care to like do things like be in fights and stuff. So even though I'm like the black sheep in my own regard, as far as being queer and stuff like that, I'm not getting in fights. I'm not getting into super trouble and stuff like that. It's more just like a fundamental Bueli supposed to be thinking in the proper ways. Why does she want tattoos? Why is she shaving her head? Why is she, you know what I'm saying? She's looking like this. Why does she have fangs? Things like that. Whereas Jahseh is doing stuff that is landing him in jail. Jahseh is doing stuff so especially with pastors, they're like, he's a lost cause. They're talking to him like he's not going to be anything in life. And he proved them 100% wrong. I still have family members to this day that call me all the time with so much regrets because they treated him like he would be nothing. And they knew exactly what they did to him. And they have full regrets on it. So I think also that also has given my family a bit of leniency when it comes to like the alternative people in our family. If anything, it probably made them have more understanding to the possibilities of what I am and what I could be as well.
Yeah.
Because why would you want to go through that twice?
Yeah.
Potentially.
So how did your family process fame as he started to become more and more famous, beyond how they treated him for his personality or the way he expressed himself? When he started to gain more notoriety, what kind of impact did that have on your family?
Honestly, I feel like my family didn't even realize that he was famous until very close to his death. Like, my family is very unimpressed. They are so like not materialistic. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter what you're going on with. If they feel like the quality of your character is not up to par, they're not rocking with it regardless. And I guess from what they have seen over the years, I think they just assumed that he would be doing it's like they lost hope type of thing. Like you're going to jail for like robbing people and all the stuff. They're just seeing you as a like a heathen or whatever. And I don't think, also my family is, they are pastors, as I said, so they take pride in not being a part of the secular world. They're not going to listen to rap. They're not going to listen to, so even if Jahseh was making rap, they're not going to listen to it. Like they know that he's making music, but they're not going to listen to it, especially if you know the type of music Jahseh's listening to. Yeah. They're not listening to that. Yeah. So why would they dive any further? Now me, I'm going on tour with this man. I don't care. Like I don't care. I love the music. But also one time they've went to my events and it was people moshing and they wrapped it up. They're like, okay, we see what's going on. So they kind of just put us in the same
box
space. Yes. When I tell you, a lot of them regret not paying attention. Mm-hmm. So they didn't really have an impression of his fame, because they didn't really have a concept of how big his fame was until like right before he died. Mm-hmm. Because it really got to the point where like we can't really ignore it, if that makes sense.
Sure. So I guess let's get into that part of it, because by the time he had passed away, he was a global icon. And I think so many people in hip hop culture acknowledged that he was on his way to being regarded as one of the greatest hip hop artists ever. Yeah. Not just because of his music and because of his talent, but because of the things that he stood for, because of his fearlessness, because he was willing to break boundaries. He was willing to stand up against really anybody in the industry. And I think he really spoke for a generation of young people and artists as a whole. So talk me through the incident that led to his passing, but also how it had an effect on you. I know you've talked a little bit already on how it affected your family, but, where were you when this happened? How did it affect you? How does it affect you today? Just kind of speak on that overall.
I was in California when it happened.
This is while you were at college?
Yes, this is while I was in college. Okay. This was early in my college years. He died, I believe, June 2018. So that would be my sophomore year of college. Yes, I was in my house. I had subleased for the first time in a place called Berkeley, California. And I was in my bedroom. I had a dog on my bed. And I got a phone call from my homegirl. And she was on the phone asking me if I was okay. And I'm like, what are you talking about, girl? I'm fine. Like, what is happening? And she's like, Jahseh got shot. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Why is this our reaction? I don't know. I'm like, what are you talking about? Jahseh got shot. Like, I'm literally thinking this girl has no idea what she's talking about. How do you know anything about my cousin? Like, I'm not thinking celebrity. I'm just thinking my cousin got shot. How do you know this if you're not like a
family member?
And I'm forgetting this whole guy is a whole famous rapper.
Yes.
So she's like, look on the news. Like, Google it right now. Jahseh got shot. He's in the hospital. I look on the news and it's all just all the way down Google, Instagram, everything. They're all talking about how Jahseh was shot. He's in the hospital right now. I'm just thinking, what kind of altercation could this man have gotten in? I am not thinking that he is going to pass. Why? Because Jahseh has been in so many near-death situations. I've seen people put a gun to this man's head. I've seen him jump in front of guns to like save his friends. I've seen Jahseh be placed in so many dangerous situations where his life was at risk and make it through. So I'm thinking, okay, he got shot. I hope nothing's wrong, but I'm not thinking he's going to pass. This man has too much will. Like it's not even possible. So I'm just trying to contact my family. Of course, I call his mom first. She's not answering the phone. Of course, she's not answering the phone. She's probably in the hospital freaking out right now. I had just left him maybe a week before this happened because I got kicked out of my house at home because I threw an event. I threw a really big event and I had to break down the event, and it lasted up until like I was supposed to be out there. I was supposed to be home by 11 p.m. and I missed an exit. My sister was driving. She missed an exit. I made it home like 15 minutes late. My mom changed those locks and I was kicked out of that house. I ended up at Jahseh's house, and I was like living in his mansion and everything. And that's when also I really had like an understanding of like how big his success was as well. After living with him for some time, I was there for a while. I decided to go back to school. He, I left, went home. I just saw this man. So there's no way. I don't know. And then one of his designers, she goes by Gerb. Gerb USA, she called me because my family was distraught. Nobody could be on the phone or anything. She's in the hospital. She's bawling and she can barely make it out of like, she can barely speak. And she's saying that Jahseh died, that he passed away. I I think I lost my mind in that moment. I think I couldn't even I don't think I couldn't process. I think in that moment was a very traumatic moment for me. Jahseh was like everything to me. Jahseh was like all I know is like Maya and Jahseh. Like that is like my two main reference point of any sort of in like family. That is the closest you can possibly get to me. So no. And I've experienced so many deaths too in my family that was not, just couldn't process it the same. It was extremely traumatic. I became a very fearful person. I was scared of everyone dying at that point. I would not stop calling my mom or my sister every 10 seconds. This lasted for years. I almost failed all my classes. I was gone for some years. I had a very bad healing process and grieving process when it came to Jahseh's death. But that's how I found out. And as far as how he did die, he was robbed at gunpoint outside of a car dealership. I believe he left his house and he like took out $50,000 out of the bank, put it in like his chest bag, went to the dealership to purchase, I think, a car or a motorcycle. And then he was approached by, I believe, three men. They tried to rob him. If you know Jahseh, he's not going to let you rob nothing. So, of course, Jahseh is not going for it. And they shot him 3 times in the neck.
Mm.
And he died in his vehicle, in his car. And someone else was with him. And there was a hospital like a block away. And he didn't make it in time. Like,
wow. From your perspective, do you feel like this was random? Do you feel like he was, obviously they were trying to rob him, but do you feel like he was targeted? Do you feel like it was premeditated?
yes, I think so. I don't think it's unsafe for me to say that. I don't think it's unrealistic for me to say that. Jahseh was on house arrest. He was not ever leaving his house unless if he was like approved for things. Um, so I believe at that time, if my recollection serves me right, that he was on house arrest at the time and had to be approved to even go out to like purchase the thing. So how we also lived in Parkland. Parkland is a very bougie place. It's a very and he lived in a house that was like away from other houses and stuff. You kind of have to drive into like this alleyway to get you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So how do you know? I mean, yeah, like his car is an obvious car. He had just drove an i8, I believe, a very like sleek sports car.
Mm.
Um, but it just seemed to be timed too perfectly to run into him at that time. There was a lot of beef going on at that time. There were people like there were multiple rappers that like sent people after him, like big rappers that like sent people after him, which we saw a lot of the videos of Jahseh like screaming about it online and things. But Jahseh is a fighter, so he doesn't care that this is happening or that somebody else is targeting him. So he probably seen it as just one other person targeting him, honestly. But for a while, I couldn't put it together how this could possibly happen. And so, yes, I did believe for a very long time that it was a setup. Now I don't really focus too much on it because it doesn't bring him back. Nothing could bring him back. So I don't even.
Well, that goes back to one of the initial questions I asked you at the beginning. If you could bring three people back, in exchange for three random people that you don't know, would you do it? And you said yes. So I'm assuming he would be one of those people.
I would kill three people to bring him back alone. Like I would
Wow.
I didn't even think of the two other people.
Yeah.
At that question. I would literally bring him back, no problem. You gave me 5 people, I would kill them all just to bring him back. I'm sorry.
I mean, I think there's a lot of people on earth that would make that same choice.
Yeah,
and they
for
were
somebody.
and they weren't not even his family members, just people that were inspired by him and
Yes.
because he saved a lot of lives with his music and
Yes.
his contributions to culture as well. So
Yes.
thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that. How does his passing affect you today?
Wow.
Do you feel like you're still grieving? Do you feel like you've been able to process it? Where are you on that, I guess, journey of healing from what took place?
I've definitely healed in a sense. I am much better than where I was before, 100%. I love that you asked this question because this question has actually, my grieving process has actually come back up very recently. And I have healed in a sense where enough time has passed and enough conversations have happened to where I can talk about Jahseh without like breaking down. I think that is a win for me. I think about him every day. I think about what he'd want me to do, what he would encourage me to do. He was like a big brother to me. So all of my creative endeavors he knew about, and all of them he encouraged me on, especially when it came to my visual arts and my music. So I know that the path that I'm on right now, he would be extremely happy for me for, especially on my previous path. He was alive during that time and hated it like everybody else did too. So I think he would be extremely proud of where I am. And so I think also with my grieving process, I think I had an easier time with my grieving process than say my peers and my family members, because I never treated him like he was wrong for anything. I answered every phone call. Anytime he needed me, I was there. And like any form of support, any sort of help, designs, whatever he needed, I was there. So when he passed, I had no regrets with our relationship. And I think that is really important. Like Jahseh knew I loved him dearly, deeply. Like he 100% felt all of that love. And I think that really helps me. And it also allows me to continue on making sure that everybody I love knows that I love them and how much I appreciate them, which is also a real reason why I have this thing where like, gotta give everyone their flowers right now. Why verbal affirmations are such a thing for me as well. So I think that like his passing has also developed me in a type of person, to be a type of person that expresses love very genuinely and often. And I like that aspect of myself. As well as his death definitely pushes me even harder to strive for my own creative endeavors. Yes.
Interesting, because you are a singer and a songwriter. Briefly tell me kind of what your goals are as a singer, songwriter, as an artist.
I would like to be a well-respected and generational artist. I would like to be an artist that can make an impact as strong as Jahseh's, if not stronger. I wouldn't say that I want to continue his lineage. I think that's a very like high pressure and difficult thing to do as far as his energy. I do not aim to mimic his energy. I aim to be my own. But I do think that I have a talent and a gift that can and has been affecting people on a large scale. And I would like to give people as much autonomy as possible through my creativity. I would like to break down a lot of the cages that we have, the mental cages that we have, to kind of bring people to a point of like pure expression and freedom. And yes, that's my goal with my music and my artistry.
I understand what you're saying in the sense that, you know, it could be very hard for someone to fill his shoes, right? In terms of his legacy, carrying on his legacy and the impact that he had. However, I think if there was any one person that could alchemize what he did and fuse it with a new legacy, it would have to be someone who is related to him, because you have an understanding of him from his childhood, literally the core, everything that made him to be who he was and created the person and the character that was that iconic. So I think, you know, you've got it. You're in the right space where you feel like, you know, it's not about being another Jahseh. It's more about extending what he did through your own artistry. So my question with that, though, is, did him essentially becoming a mythology in himself and the fame and everything that comes with that, how has everything that took place with him affected your perception of fame? And is there anything in that you feel like changes how you would approach being a public figure, especially as a musician?
I think that something that has definitely changed was understanding that we as an audience really have no idea what's going on. As I said before, Jahseh is a very polarizing person. When people talked about Jahseh, it was from a state of I love him or I hate him. And there's all these reasons why. And there's all these assumptions as well that's made from however people want to perceive us or whatnot, especially now being a part of his family after the death. What people thought of his family in general, a lot of people perceived us to be greedy, evil, sacrificial people who didn't care about whether Jahseh was alive or dead, or we just wanted to capitalize off of his music after, you know, posthumous drops and all the things. And I know that there is a real connotation with that, an evil perception that is with that. And if anyone knew my aunt or knew our family, they would understand that we are the sweetest people in the world, the most understanding people in the world, and would never do the things that they think. As well as when Jahseh was alive, there was so many, you know, think pieces on what they think he's done or what they think he is and all this stuff. And I'm sitting right next to him and he's encouraging every single person that walks past him. He's planning their futures. He's investing in their futures. He's blessing everybody that he comes across. And so it definitely changed my mind when it came to what I ingest in the media. I believe almost nothing. There's been multiple times where I've gone viral and then ended up as a headline somewhere, and the headline is completely the opposite of what is actually in the article. Then you find out people don't actually read the articles. Then you find out people don't necessarily have to put out the truth. And so I think that when it comes to fame, I understand how I have a glimpse into how dehumanizing it can be. Mm-hmm. And I think that when it comes to myself and stepping more into like the public figure perspective, I'm still navigating it. I have more leniency because I've been on both sides. I've been a person that believed in all the hype, and so I have more forgiveness for the audience. But then as for a person who's being a public figure or turning into one in this current moment, I have a small fear as to how deep the rabbit hole goes. And so I'm very aware of what that can do. Mm-hmm. People like yourself who have worked with people like Jahseh, like Kanye. Mm-hmm. I think Kanye and Jahseh are very close as far as being polarizing people.
Yeah, I mean, from what I'm aware of, I know that Ye was a big fan of his music, of Jahseh's music, and you know, they were kindred spirits, I think, in a lot of ways. And I think for you, there's a lot to take away from, you know, having learned those experiences through what he went through, but also I think he had correct me if I'm wrong, but an approach to where he really didn't care a lot about what other people had to say about him. And that's kind of what got him to where he was. Mm. So I think there's a healthy amount of that you can take from it, you know, to understand that people get paid to write stories. Yeah. And the best way to combat that is to continue to tell your own story, as opposed to getting caught up on the stories that are being put out there, if that makes sense. When did you leave home?
When I made that decision, I was in high school. I decided that I was going to leave home for sure during sophomore year of high school. So that's around 14, 15. I'm born in July, so I went to school early. Yeah, so I did whatever I can the last 2 years of high school to get the highest grades that I possibly could, AP classes, all the things, and created a portfolio. I applied to every prestigious art college I could outside of Florida. And I got into everyone, and I left at 17.
Yeah.
I left at 17 years old, went to California. I got the 2 highest scholarships, like highest amount of scholarships from these 2 colleges in California. One was California College of the Arts and San Francisco Art Institute, SFAI. And I went there and I chose CCA, California College of the Arts. And from there, I was living in dorms in California. So 3,000 miles away from home.
Wow. Completely on the other side of the country.
Completely on the other side of the country, to the gayest place I possibly could.
And what was that transition like for you? And what was it like being at a school like that, which I assume is not a predominantly Black space?
No.
But also, you know, having to be in somewhat of a competitive field, you know, in a creative aspect.
It was extremely freeing in a very positive way, because I didn't have any intentions to do anything nefarious. Like, I just wanted to be a creative person. I just wanted to express myself creatively. So I didn't get into like trouble or anything like that. The most that I did was probably got a crap ton of tattoos and, you know, lots of just traveling a lot. And then the transition was, no one is telling you what to do. So now you are completely dependent on your own will, your own willpower. California College of the Arts is one of those colleges that has access to every single medium and every single machine that you could possibly need to bring you to any skill you want to learn. California College of the Arts is one of those places that will provide you with that, whether it be 3D printing, coding, architecture, individualized. You literally can create your own specific major. Like, they are so well-rounded with every single aspect of visual art that you can literally create your own individualized major and pick out the certain classes that will help you get the exact skills that you need. So when it comes to that, I find California College of the Arts very cool. I in most art colleges, they don't really require you to pick a major until your second year. Reason being is because you have to take all of your prerequisite classes. For regular colleges, that's your maths, your sciences, things like that, before you dive into the courses that are required for your degree specifically. And in art school, the prerequisite courses aren't maths and sciences. It's like woodshop, glass if you wanted, ceramics if you wanted. So I was able to expand my horizons past just painting and went more into a sculptural vibe, so that I can really see if illustration was what I wanted. And I thought I was going to be a painting major in there, and ended up an illustrator with a minor in glass blowing, which I did not see coming. I didn't even know glass was an option in there until I had to pick my courses, and I realized I can be a glass artist, I could be a blacksmith, I could do whatever I want to do. And so I decided to you just broaden my horizons, add more skills to my belt. That helped me a lot. College is hard. I think dedicating yourself to any form of college and making it through is 100% an achievement. I will never put that down, and I'm very proud of myself for completing that journey. And I think that it also has given me the skill to follow through on other things, especially understanding the importance of delayed gratification, being that 4 years of hard work that is not rewarding you every single second and is challenging you, and then the real world is challenging you at the same time. It's a hard thing. So I definitely brought that skill with me into the outside world, and it's developed me into a stronger artist, I believe.
Oftentimes people say that the best friends that they have in life are people that they met in college. Would you say that you met people in college that had a profound impact on your life from a friendship perspective?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, 100%. I think that there's a few select people that I know I'm going to have in my life for a long time, 100%. But I'm under the belief that my real lifelong family friends are not going to come until I'm probably in my 30s.
Interesting.
That's how I feel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got you. Were there any, I guess, romantic relationships that you had while you were, because at this age, you're what now?
Yeah, it was
19,
from
20?
like 17 to 21.
Got you. So yeah, were there any like romantic relationships that took place while you were there?
Yes, I had romantic relationships in college. I tried. I tried some things. I tried to have a boyfriend. Okay, this is what I did. I decided I was grown. I was in college now. I decided I wanted to be like my friends. All of my friends were downloading Tinder. Tinder was a new thing. I downloaded Tinder for like 3 days. Oh my gosh. I swiped on a couple people, matched with a couple people, went on a few dates with a couple people. One person, they matched with me. I met up with them. They were very charming. I ended up dating them for like a month or two, maybe 3 months, maybe. I can't even remember. It was very short.
This was a man.
This was a man.
What was that experience like?
Very confusing. I felt like I should not be there the entire time. I felt like this was confirmation that I'm in the wrong place and that I should be with women.
What caused you to feel that way?
I just feel like, I think that, I don't know how men are particularly raised, but it seemed like men of the Oakland variety are quite rough, and I'm a very, how do I say this without sounding, I get stimulated from intellectual conversations. I get stimulated, and it's not that men can't participate in stimulating conversation. I just think the average male is not prioritizing it amongst their friends. And so when I watched my partner like socialize and, think about, they weren't a very ambitious person. They weren't a very like, they just did not stimulate me. They just did not stimulate me. And then on top of it, they were very short-tempered and they're cruel at times. And yeah, it was very short-lived. And I was just like, I don't have to do this at all. I don't have to be here.
Were there any examples of that person being short-tempered or being cruel to you?
Yes. There was a lot of that as far as verbally, but once we broke up, they definitely tried to rekindle the friendship, things like that. At least that's what they were pushing on, but under wraps, they wanted to get us back together. I did not know that. I think I was very naive at the time. And I thought everyone was like myself, where we just kind of just say what we think and say what we mean. And that's not the case at all. I ended up being like sexually assaulted by that person later on. And it was a very violent and disturbing situation that changed my life. And yeah, that's a situation that happened.
Are you able to go deeper?
As far as what? As far as how?
As far as, yes, the incident that took place.
The incident that took place. So I don't know how I should start or how I should end. Basically, I dated the person. They were charming at first. Once we officially got into a relationship, I don't know. I think people have an assumption, especially when you're young, that the people that you're with can see the worst of you and the best of you, and they choose to be with you. So I think people kind of just like let go of all of all of what they presented themselves to be as, and he completely just let that loose, and his more, how do I say, like, less tolerant side would come out at times. And as far as conversationally, it never ended up in like shouting matches or anything, but I would just ingest it. I was not really a fighting spirit at the time. And then once we broke up, and I feel like I'm missing pieces, but basically I ended up in Florida. I always go back to Florida with my family. And he was texting me at the time. He was apologizing for the breakup, all the things. We can be friends, all the stuff like that. Cool, we can be friends. When we come back to California, maybe we can hang out. Sure. We hung out. He had an RV, and I wanted to see the RV. I thought it was cool that he could be living in like a kind of alternative lifestyle. I had, when you're growing up, I think, especially when you're in colleges and stuff, now it's really cool because now your friends have apartments and things. And I was still in a dorm, so that even was cool because I'm not living with my parents anymore. So that's different for me. He has a whole RV. I wanted to see it. He wanted to show me it, all the things. When I went back to California, I went to his RV, and, he locked the door behind you. I'm just thinking it's safe. We talked for a while. He was trying to get back into a relationship together. I was not going for it. It was kind of, he was like pushing the idea. I was getting uncomfortable with the situation. I wanted to leave. He pulled out his gun and like showed me that he had a gun and that I couldn't go anywhere. And that, I don't even know how I was to process that situation. I've never been in that type of situation before. That soon after that, he like pushed me to, like, the RV is it's a long thing. Mm-hmm. So he's pushing me to the back. There's a bed in the back, and that's where that happened. And it was very violent and, yeah, very disturbing. After that, I ran out of there. I ran to a Planet Fitness, a Crunch Fitness. There was like across the street, there was a gym, and I took a shower for like 2 hours straight. It was just oh man, when I'm telling you that entire situation, I was regretting everything. I was regretting moving to California. I was regretting I felt like my family was right about every single thing in my life, and I should have never even tried to do anything that I've ever tried to do to express myself or whatever. That's how I felt. I felt like my family was right about every single thing, and I should just go home. I ended up in a psych ward. I ended up getting 5150. And I ended up pregnant too. And I ended up having to get an abortion. But also I was talking to a girl at the time. Remember, I broke up with him. When he did this, we were single. I was talking to a girl at the time. Like, we were not together. I was talking to a girl at the time, and I told her what happened. And when I told her what happened, she was kind of just like, so what are you going to do to get him back? Like, get back at him. How are we going to set him up, basically? What are you going to do? And I just couldn't. But then also she was like, did you go to a store and get a rape kit? First time I'm even hearing of a rape kit. So she was like, fuck, you washed off like all the evidence. Because, you know, like when that stuff happens and you're grossed out, it's very, this is a disturbing conversation, but I'm getting up in there trying to get everything out because I'm disgusted by what the fuck, you know what just happened. Yeah, I learned a lot that day, not to be like that, but it also is the thing that brought me and my mom closer. Because my mom was always a very like cold person. She was a very like off-put person. Personal conversations we never have, nothing. She was just very cold all the time. I always tried to reach out to her in a emotionally vulnerable sense. She just never was going for it. But of course, when the doctors are calling her at the psych ward and I'm, messed up and whatever, that was the first time I've ever seen my mom kind of soften her heart towards me and like open up to me. After I got out the psych ward, she took me to Florida, and she was just like, my mom was just like, nobody talked to her. Like, she just went through some stuff and da-da-da and all this. And I've never seen my mom protect me that way. And it kind of changed. It just let me know that my mom was even capable of loving me in a way that I felt like I needed. And I think that opened up an entire relationship. I think it gave my mom an opportunity to show a different side of herself. I don't want to say that it's not a blessing of any sort, but it brought something that I appreciate.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to unpack there in the sense that when this traumatic thing was done to you, you had regrets about, well, number one, you had your own regrets, but also imposed regrets from your family, basically telling you, see, this is why you should have stayed home. This is why you shouldn't have come out here. When it's like a big part of the reason why you left is because you weren't being accepted for who you were at home.
Yes.
So it's like you go from being the villain in their story to then being a victim in a space that was supposed to be a safe haven for you and your development. And in choosing yourself, the fact that you are a villain in their story is more justified, if that makes sense.
Yes.
But then in that same process, your mom was able to find empathy and understanding for who you are and things that you went through. And the fact that that brought you together, I think, is a really powerful story. It's very unfortunate, and I'm sorry that you went through something like that. And it is also unfortunate that almost every woman that I know has some type of story similar to that experience. And it's just something that we, as men, more than anything, but as a society in total, need to work harder to be able to change and mitigate. Is this towards the end of your college tenure, or like where in the timeline, I guess, is this happening?
In the very beginning.
This is the beginning.
Yes.
Got you. And I mean, in short, how did that affect your relationships, I guess, moving forward? Because I guess, you already knew that you were queer. You try a situation with a man, the most traumatic thing that can happen to you happens. So I'm guessing from that point on, you're like, yeah, well, you said it already. You said that it kind of confirmed to you that
Yes.
being with women was the
Yes.
best case scenario for you.
I wouldn't say that that situation is the thing that led me to like be thwarted away from men necessarily. I wouldn't say that that's the situation. I already felt that way, but I feel like I kind of forced myself to be in spaces that I didn't want to be in because I was trying to force myself to be what my family wanted me to be. And I think that that ended up with me going into relationships that I probably wasn't even ready for. I probably, at that time, developmentally, probably wasn't supposed to be in relationships at that time anyway. I think I was a very sheltered child, so I don't know if I had the maturity and the experience I don't think I was ready for it yet. And I forced myself into it because my family was like, this is what's right. Yeah. This is the type of relationships you're supposed to be in. Even though they didn't want me to date anyway, but they're like, if you're going to date, it needs to be this. So I tried, and it ended up with me choosing the worst possible person ever. As far as my friends hated him from the get-go. Mm-hmm. So him doing this was not a surprise. And they're like, see, we're just waiting for you to catch up. Yeah. And so they definitely were shoulders to cry on and things like that. They were supportive of me.
So I did not have that story on the file, but I do have something here that says that you were, during college and well beyond that, you were in a long-term relationship with someone else that's not this person.
Yeah.
The floor is yours to kind of talk about that relationship, the origins of it, how it developed, so on and so forth.
That relationship was a very long relationship. It was a 6 going on 7-year relationship. It was a relationship with a woman. They were also from Oakland. And I said that I had Tinder for 3 days. Literally both of those people was from that 3-day situation. And basically what happened in that 3 days was I swiped right, they swiped right. I asked them out on a date. I said in my bio that I was on vacation in Florida at the time, that I would be back. They assumed I was a catfish because of the distance. I think Tinder at the time could say how far away I was, and it said I was like 3,600 something miles away. She was like, this is a catfish, left me on red. I go to a party with my friends about to go to Florida so that I can go on tour with, no, not even on tour, to the Parkland shows, because there was a Parkland shooting and Jahseh got approval to get to do some shows for charity. And so I went to this party, and I had the flight like that morning, like 5 a.m. in the morning, and I met her at this party, and she stopped me. She said she knew me. I thought she knew me from my event planning in Florida, because how would you know me? And then she said we met on Tinder. That confirmed with her that I was queer. That confirmed with me that she was queer. She was very, like, persistent, and I thought that was cool. Never had that before from a woman. It was fresh. I was young, all the things. If I got her a rose, she got me 10. If I took her on a date, she took me to a even grander one. If I did anything, she like doubled it, tripled it, like throw it right back at me. And I was like, this is fantastic. Never experienced anything like this. So of course I was swept off my feet and all the things. My mom hated it. My whole family hated it because they don't believe in it. But they were like, if it's going to be with a woman, it needs to be healthy. It was not that. From the very beginning, we were showing extreme signs of toxicity, and we both did not have the mental health for this arrangement. We both did not have the finances for this arrangement. Again, so young, this is not high school anymore where, you're seeing each other every day. She did not go to my college, which I was very happy about as well. So if we're seeing each other, it was definitely because we wanted to and that we were making the effort. Everything seemed very genuine. I am not the person that typically falls in love first, and I was not the person to fall in love in this situation. I think once the idea of love was introduced to me, then I opened myself up to that idea, and then I fall, and I fell for her, and I thought. When I tell you I fell for her, I fell for her very hard. She presented herself as a person with so much ambition, so much determination, so much passion, so much intelligence that it was extremely stimulating for me. It was it felt very enriching in the beginning. Now, even though that was the case on her personality in general, the things that were happening in front of me, the evidence that I had in front of me did not mirror this personality. So from the minute that I got into a relationship with her, almost every opportunity that I received and was on and had, I lost. So I had, the scholarships that and the free money that you get to pay for the dorm rooms and all the stuff. I was living in like a very, very nice apartment in San Francisco across the street from the Twitter building. I was living a very cushy life and lost access to that due to the fact that I kept inviting her over my house and she was getting into arguments with like the RA and think dumb things like having an emotional support animal and then like the paperwork and all the stuff. We were like doing things of trying to become a family and trying to do adult things when really we were kids and did not have the permission to do so. We were making really, really dumb decisions together as a unit, and I ended up being banned from campus. So I lost my home. Tried to get another home on campus, lost that as well because of her dynamics with my authorities and things like that in my school. Officially had to move to Berkeley with her. We thought that we were doing the things together, and that's when Jahseh had passed. She was right in front of me during the time, and I honestly think that of the like within the trauma of Jahseh passing and her being there, I think I had a mental break where when that moment happened, I kind of replaced. You can't replace Jahseh, right? But I associated the two closest people in my life as my sister and Jahseh, my cousin. And when I lost Jahseh, I started to get this intense fear about losing the close people to me. And I kind of latched on to her in the same way that I would latch on to like my mom or my sister. And so even though our relationship was extremely toxic, I kept pushing for it to continue because anytime that she tried to leave, my mind would associate it like it was Jahseh's death all over again. So I would literally have like, I would lose my mind anytime. Like I would just be hysterically crying and like begging for her to stay and all these things. It was extremely, that trauma that I had with Jahseh in that very moment literally switched to her. And I held on to her as if that was Jahseh, if that makes sense. Um, Now I think that this was something that she understood. I think that this was not to say an opportunity, but an opportunity. I definitely think that she understood the type of power that she has with that type of trauma that I had and used it to manipulate me in multiple ways, get anything she wants out of me. And I think that I stopped my own growth career wise, creatively, to support hers. And that was what was very blatantly being asked of me. It was definitely like, there can't be two singers here. There cannot be, you have to be the supporting artist. I am the singer. That is legitimately a conversation that we have had. There's been business efforts that I have made towards becoming an entrepreneur that I have had to stop so that I can pour all of it into her business. Granted, I'm good at supporting. I'm good at what I do. I'm good at consultations. I'm good at administrative work. I'm good at I'm running a business, especially on the back end as well. And I did that for her, and we grew that business so huge. we it was such a successful business. Our max, we quickly made it like within 2 years, 2 or 3 years. We were making $100,000 a month just off of the one platform, the one page, the one website, the few products. Most of it was consultations, and I was doing majority of them too. And that left me no time for myself. And I think when creative people do not have an accurate outlet, it can make them very insufferable to be around. So I think I also became a very insufferable person to be around, as I was miserable all the time. I'm typically a happy-go-lucky person. I'm an optimist, and my mental health was not well because I could not pour into anything that can help me grow in any form or fashion. And it became an active fight within the relationship of me trying to create, and someone is actively stopping me, as well as there was a clear intimidation that they had with my creativity, because anytime I did create, it would be very successful, more successful than she and I ever thought. And it can potentially lead to more attention to me than herself. And that was a big issue within our relationship.
Yeah.
It led to a lot of fights, a lot of verbal abuse, a lot of economic abuse, a lot of cruel actions, like so many things that has been done to me in that relationship that is quite wicked, over either Bueli getting too much attention, Bueli wanting to leave, Bueli wanting, just some more for myself. Exactly.
What was required for you to be able to get out of that situation and move on from it? And also, how has the process been healing from that and being able to, I guess, reclaim your own power and the things that you wanted to do? Because obviously you're saying while in this relationship, you weren't able to go after the things that you wanted to go after. So what was that process like?
I think that something weird started to happen. My family was always the family that was trying their hardest to keep me contained as much as possible. And they knew that what I wanted for myself as far as creatively was not, they feared that it wouldn't be in the vision of ministry. And so they wanted to contain that. So there was a lot of, dulling down my creative efforts in my family. Once I got in this relationship, they saw something that was alarming to them, and it kind of made them want to free me as much as possible. So it kind of shifted their conversations with me, instead of being like, you can't do this, you can't do that, to you can do anything you want to do. You can go anywhere you want to go. My mom would always be like, if you want to move to Paris tomorrow, you can. Just anything that she could to encourage me to get out of that situation, because she knew that that situation was toxic. My mom literally had premonitions that I would pass away. Multiple people had premonitions that I would pass away in that relationship because of where it was going, the violence that was happening, the things that was going on was crazy. And honestly, that's where that was headed, I'm pretty sure.
For sure.
So in that relationship, they encouraged me. Now, because it was coming from family members that I couldn't trust with my creativity at first, I couldn't listen to them. I couldn't, it wasn't translating. Even though what they were saying was encouraging and true, they were not advocates for my creativity. They were not safe spaces for my creativity as I was growing up. So I did not trust them. I had to end up in an environment with people that have never harmed me creatively, that were a safe space for me creatively, for them to provide space for me to create, and for me to see something, to see the aftermath of like a creation actually following through. For me to realize, like, I can do this. There is space for me. You are not held back. In fact, the fact that you've been held back this entire time has been your choice, because you've stayed here this entire time. You do have the capacity to love past this person. You do have, all these things. I needed a fresh slate, and I needed this fresh perspective from people who haven't harmed me. And I think I finally reached that point and why did it take so long for it to reach that point? I think it reached that point because a lot of people come into contact with myself and they realize that I'm a person who can support and uplift, and I amplify people, and people decide to use it as a tool, and they can't benefit from it when Bueli is self-serving.
Yeah.
So I think that I stayed around people who wanted me to stay in my place, and I ended up finally around people who saw me the way I saw myself truly.
Yes.
And once I was around that, it empowered me so fast. I started acting so fast. Like, I needed to get out of there. I needed to just start doing
Yeah, it's
stuff.
amazing when you get around people that don't have a predisposition to you. So they're able to see you as you have essentially built yourself up to be, as opposed to seeing you and knowing all your deepest, darkest secrets and the worst parts of you and all of that. And that can be what is a catalyzing reason for you to leave a toxic situation. I also think it's interesting that in a lot of your experiences, it has been a traumatizing experience or a traumatizing time in your life that has led to people who you feel like should have supported you in a certain way to kind of open their eyes and accept you for who you are. Because when you don't have that foundation or that feeling of acceptance from what should be the people that accept you the most, your family, then you seek it elsewhere. But it's a big world out there and it's really cold at times. And you can seek that validation from people who actually don't have your best interest at heart, which, it ends up becoming like the reverse of what your family wanted. It's almost like they wanted to shelter you from those types of people, but they ended up kind of pushing you
me
towards
straight
them because exactly. So, as much as these are all terrible things that you had to experience, like you said before, it is very, there's a lesson there in the fact that it still led to beneficial things happening for you and your development. So yes. I guess, we're almost out of time, but if you could talk about where you are now. I know you are a singer, you're a songwriter, you're a multidisciplinary visual artist, but you're also an educator in teaching manifestation through the principles of quantum physics. If you can talk about those things in 3 minutes, that would be great. And then, we can review your application.
Yes. Okay. Starting from the back to the front, me as an educator, I ended up reading a book called A Happy Pocket Full of Money. In chapter 2, there is a chapter about quantum physics. Most of my library is self-help. I've always been about like mind hacking and, again, giving yourself as much autonomy as possible to follow through on your creativity and all the things that you want to do to live a fulfilling life. I did not see that chapter coming, and it kind of broke down what the core elements of the world is created out of. And it basically spun it to me that if you understand what the world is made out of, you can use it as a tool. And if you can use it as a tool, then the world is your oysters. You can create it into whatever you want it to be. And honestly, I had an aha moment in that moment. It was like an epiphany happened in that moment. I was in Florida and I was reading this book and I was like, I need to talk to somebody about this. But again, being Black, being whatnot, there's a sort of distance between certain forms of information and ourselves. We just assume that we can't get this information. So if I just walk up to my friends and be like, hey, I want to have a conversation about quantum physics, they're not trying to hear me. So I decided to talk about it online. I just went on my TikTok and I was like, did you know such and such and such and such? And it kind of took fire from there. There was like, it started to be a small group of people that was very interested, and it grew and it grew and it grew really quickly after that. And I became obsessed with quantum physics and then started studying it a lot. And a lot of it felt, I don't know, science and religion to me feel like science and spirituality feel like two sides of the same coin to me. And I wanted to show that mirror, because I felt like if I'm getting something from this, if it's allowing me to be more free, I'm reaching to the same exact place as my family members are reaching to, my successful, high performing family members are, but I'm doing it in a different way, then I'm pretty sure somebody else can benefit from this as well. I can't be the only person who benefits from this. I'm literally reading a book about it. And so I decided that all the things that I would learn and what has been benefiting for me, I would share with my peers. And it's been growing, and it's been pretty successful.
Yeah. And that's led to you growing a pretty big following.
Yeah.
I've seen you're over 120,000 followers on Instagram.
Yeah.
How many on TikTok?
I think about 50,000 on TikTok.
And then I'm sure you have other social platforms. So over 200,000 people are subscribed essentially to what you have to say. So you're doing this through content?
Yes.
Through consultations, I'm assuming, group classes, things of that nature?
And books.
And books. You're an author.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, I feel like we should have another conversation. And that conversation, I think, should be fully based on all of those things, because I'm very interested to know how your contributions can be beneficial to Darkside. And just to get to know more of it from a personal level as well, because I find it to all be very interesting. But thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing your stories. I know we went through a lot of content today, but you definitely had one of the more robust files that I have seen. So I appreciate you coming here. And we will schedule more time to talk soon.
Thank you so much for having me.